Have you noticed this happening? Queer, loud, unapologetic, and then softer, prettier, more traditional, come on. JoJo Siwa, Miley Cyrus, Billie Eilish, Madonna. What are you? It's not just one person. I want to talk about a pattern. Not a scandal, not a single person, a pattern. Many of you said it in the comments of my JoJo Siwa video. She isn't unusual. In fact, she fits into a much larger cultural story. A story where queerness went from being niche and risky to then visible, celebrated, marketable, and now intensely political. So today, I want to ask, is there such a thing as a queer rebrand pipeline? Wait, should I be doing this? And why does it keep happening? Hi, I'm Jessica Kellgren-Fozard. I am a disabled, vintage fashion wearing lesbian who makes videos about queer history, living with chronic illness, and parenting as a queer couple with my wife Claudia. I have been making LGBTQ+ themed videos on the internet for over a decade. I know, I'm shocked too. And I've noticed some big changes in that time with the general public, celebrities, and brands, which we'll be getting to very soon. But for now, as you watch this video, I am actually in Malaysia visiting my in-laws. Right now I'm just spiralling at the thought of making sure I have everything packed for my 4-year-old and the twins, and how on earth are we going to keep them occupied on the plane, and what do we have to finish up before we go away? And oh my goodness, should I have more fresh food or before we go away, or should we just keep eating from the cupboards? Because I don't want to have to leave things and then they go bad and then we come home and the house is all smelling so much. It's hard to find time to think about myself sometimes, or making sure that I'm getting all my vitamins and nutrients. The children, I'm very regimented with their daily multivitamin, but me, it was becoming a struggle. Thankfully, I've now found today's sponsor, Ritual, makers of useful and strangely beautiful supplements. Genuinely. Have you ever seen a supplement that looks this good? Recently, I've been taking Ritual's essential supplement for women 18+, and it's been giving me peace of mind in these stressful times. It's a clinically backed, clean, high-quality multivitamin for women aged 18 to 49 to help fill in those key nutrient gaps in the diet. And as someone who does not track the macros of my diet, is that even how you say that? I really appreciate it. Essential for women 18+ is third-party tested, vegan-friendly, non-GMO certified, gluten-free, and formulated without major allergens, which is brilliant for someone like me who struggles with gluten. The delayed release capsules are designed to be gentle on the stomach, so I can take them with or without food. Really excellent when your meal times consist of trying to stop one twin from grabbing the other's food and then they both just laugh about it. I've also started taking Ritual's Hi Sarah, which is a skin supplement that reduces wrinkles and fine lines and improves skin smoothness. Can you tell? Okay, don't zoom in that close though. My skin genuinely does feel more hydrated now, but you don't have to just take my word for it. Hi Sarah's results are clinically proven, which means they have been tested on real people. It's like a multiple-step skincare routine in a bottle. Perfect for when your time alone in front of the bathroom mirror is capped at 30 seconds. Oh, you wanted to use the toilet and brush your teeth without a baby staring at you? Good luck. Ritual is made traceable, meaning that they share where key ingredients come from and why they're used, so you know what you're putting in your body, because not all ingredients are created equal. Ritual is also subscription-based, so I never have to remember to order more. A bonus for a busy person. For 25% off your first order, use the QR code on screen. Click the link in the description or go to ritual.com/JessicaKF25 and use code JessicaKF25. Let me know which products you pick up. Section 1. What do I mean by pipeline? So let's start by defining some terms. When I say pipeline, I don't mean in a conspiratorial type of way where I'm about to make a pinball behind myself. Although... Okay, listen up class, I get it. You want to be you, but it's just not going to work for us from a brand perspective, okay? You're starting with queer visibility. You came out. Wonderful. Then, moving on to public attention. Novelty. They just weren't expecting this from you. They're loving it. But then comes backlash, discomfort. You weren't thinking about the Midwestern mums who are actually buying your stuff now, were you? Oh what? Did you think the 10-year-olds are making their own money? Please. So then, we move on to aesthetic softening. Just a new era for you. That's all. You weren't wrong before, you just like taffeta now. Actually, no, never mind. We looked at the profit margins on the taffeta dresses and we're going for sequins instead. It's easier for the children in the factories to sew. And finally, mainstream palatability. Well done. Glad we got past all that. God, this doesn't happen to every celebrity who talks about being queer. This doesn't happen to every brand with a Pride Month collection. This doesn't happen to every edgy influencer. And it's not always an intentional shift or even a move made by choice. And it's definitely not about accusing individuals of being less queer or not queer enough. We are not throwing anyone out of the bus. I mean, look at me. Do I look like I believe in stereotypes? Actually, all of the vintage lovers I know are lesbians. Okay, well, moving on. What we're recognising is that queer visibility is rewarded up to a point. Then the pressure shifts. Well, sure, you've got to be marketable, brand friendly. Oh, is that why a straight kiss can be in a kid's film and the mere mention of having two mums can't? That is very location specific. You've just got to give the audience what they want. Is that really too much to ask? Be softer, be less political, be easier to consume. Section 2, JoJo Siwa. Let's come back to JoJo Siwa, because she's a clear, current example. But she's not the only one. Child star, highly controlled brand, massive young audience. Then in 2021, she comes out. Loudly, joyfully, unapologetically, rainbow bows, pride merch, girlfriend content, visibility that mattered, especially for young queer fans. Trust me, I knew I was gay when I was 4, alright? You need queer things for the kids. They need it. And then heterosexual coupling in public spaces. It's just too much. A gradual aesthetic shift. A softer, more classic presentation. Vintage femininity, which takes us to... I probably don't need to tell you who Miley Cyrus is. You're watching YouTube. You have access to the culture. She also began working as a child, but I think it's safe to argue is probably more of an icon than JoJo. Sorry, JoJo. It's okay. I think she would agree Hannah Montana had us all in a chokehold.
She looks so good.
She is insane, that woman. True fan right here.
No, if you ever want to see me not speak, put that woman in front of my face.
After playing Hannah Montana and being part of the Disney universe for so long, there was a period, particularly around the Bangers era, where Miley was openly engaging with queer identity. Although in interviews she shared that she had come out to her mother at the age of 14. I remember telling her that I admire women in a different way, and she asked me what that meant, and I said, I love them. I love them like I love boys. And it was so hard for her to understand. She didn't want me to be judged, and she didn't want me to go to hell. But she believes in me more than she believes in any god. I just asked for her to accept me, and she has. In 2014, she founded the Happy Hippie Foundation, focusing on the LGBTQ+ community and youth homelessness. In June 2015, Time magazine reported that she identified as gender fluid and doesn't relate to being boy or girl or need to have her partner relate to boy or girl. And aesthetically, she matched exactly what the general world expected. Experimental, boundary pushing, deliberately messy. Over time though, her public image has shifted repeatedly, and even though after her marriage in 2018 to Liam Hemsworth, not that Hemsworth, the other one, no, not that one either. Yeah, that one. Miley went on record to say that she still identified as queer. And she publicly dated a woman when they broke up. Although some of her comments have been not great. Like that time she told us we all don't have to actually be gay, we could just find the right man. Eesh. But she was a trailblazer for people who hadn't seen someone be so publicly queer before.
It made me so excited to know that you grew up watching Hannah.
You literally walked so I could run. Like what I do on stage where I can like go on a red carpet and just be...
Oh, I was gagged for that. Love
But that's because like you took a lot of the heat for that in 2012, 2013.
Again, I'm not actually talking about her actual sexuality, I'm just pointing out that her aesthetic has shifted. Here she is announcing her engagement to Liam Hemsworth, and here she is announcing her engagement to Max Morando. Different styling, yes, definitely, but both classic dresses and meeker, more effeminate poses. Obviously there's nothing inherently wrong with either of these things, but it's reflective of that broader cycle we've been talking about. Push boundaries, recenter, regain mainstream comfort. Another child star, Demi Lovato, has also been very open about identity, including coming out as non-binary in 2021, later adopting both she, her and they, them pronouns, explaining that they became exhausted with explaining their pronouns. It is exhausting. Oh yeah, I mean I can't really keep track of these things. I did try creating a cheat sheet on my hand, but it just sort of keeps rubbing off. Wow, thank you for your brave sacrifice for the LGBTQ+ community. A true ally. Demi moved away from the cutesy camp rock look to more of an actual rock look, but it's the visibly queer aesthetic in between that is the most exciting to me. This haircut, these clothes. Yes, Demi, you wear what you want. And then, this is different. As we've talked about before, when identity exploration happens publicly, especially under intense scrutiny, and being a child star is not easy, there's often the pressure to stabilize into something more legible, something that audiences can understand. Sometimes we see this move the other way as well, like Billie Eilish's early image rejected traditional femininity with oversized clothing, ambiguity, and the refusal of sexualization, and her look was to the extent that the general public's take was, well, of course, she must be queer. Did look like a lot of queer teenagers. That I knew. It's true. Rather than minimise her potential sexual deviance from the norm, we are all searching for clues. Well, they weren't very well hidden. Perhaps due to her original styling being a clear disconnection from any kind of sexuality, moves that she now makes towards more feminine styles don't necessarily read as a rejection of queerness, despite the discourse. But any shift does spark debate about who gets celebrated when they move towards traditional femininity and who gets criticised when they move away from it. Those edgy YouTubers who get married and become family bloggers. Well, thank goodness no one has ever accused me of being edgy. Add your own examples of other celebrities in the comments below. But remember, this is about systems, not accusing individuals. This is not a morality play. People grow, identities evolve, but culturally, the trajectory mirrors something we've seen before. Which brings us to Section 3. This is not new. Public queerness pre-2000. Before social media, before TikTok, before influencers, this dynamic already existed. Let's go back to Marlene Dietrich. Yeah, I have an entire video about the actress and singer who broke boundaries and kissed other women on screen. It's all very exciting. You can click the link in the corner up here to watch me fangirl. However, once she came to Hollywood and reached global acclaim, the way she played with androgyny was, yes, still deeply provocative for the time, but also an image that was carefully managed within the studio system. Queer-coded, bold and boundary-pushing, but in a way that became aestheticized, stylized, no longer allowed to fully disrupt heterosexual norms on screen. Speaking of disrupting heterosexual norms, in the 1970s, David Bowie openly played with bisexuality, gender fluidity, and androgyny. Sure, Ziggy Stardust was queer spectacle. Sold. Later in his career, Bowie distanced himself from some of those earlier statements, at times describing them as performative or exaggerated. What did I tell you? That is particularly cynical. Hey, it's just how the world works. I mean, we're selling your identity back to you, but why does it need to be honest? Oh, I think I'm going to be sick. Look, he is a complex queer icon, okay? He told Melody Maker in 1972 that he was gay and always had been, then later identified as bisexual in 1976 to Playboy, and subsequently described his past declarations as the biggest mistake I ever made, calling himself a closet heterosexual in 1983. And that's okay. There are some things about him that are definitely absolutely not okay. We don't need to include them in this video, but trigger warning if you're gonna Google David Bowie controversies. It's not unusual for someone's sexuality to change and have a degree of fluidity. We don't ever know for sure what's going on inside another person, and we're not talking about how they personally identify. We're talking about the public performance of queerness and how we, as the audience, and capitalism at large, treats it and then sells it back to us. In the 1980s and 90s, Madonna heavily engaged with queer culture, ballroom scenes, and drag aesthetics. Her work amplified queer expression, but often through a lens that remained commercially digestible, that of the white female protagonist doing shocking things. She could always have the potential for change, the potential to be reabsorbed by the culture at large, whilst the queer POC around her don't. What did I just say? We're incorporating queerness. We just need to, control it now, yeah? Remember that time she married Guy Ritchie and started dressing like landed gentry? I sold a lot of pictures back in those days. That was a thing. Queerness can be marketable, as long as it doesn't destabilise the mainstream too much. Section 4, the commercialisation of queerness. To really understand why this pipeline of sorts exists, we need to talk about money, because queerness hasn't just become more visible over time, it's become marketable too. For much of the 20th century, queerness existed largely outside mainstream commercial culture, not because it wasn't there, but because it wasn't considered sellable. Then gradually that changed. Who knew the gays had money? This queer doesn't. Oh yeah, you're not the type I was talking about. LGBTQ+ advertising emerged in the 1970s, initially focusing on gay men through local gay newspapers and magazines. Early advertisers were predominantly companies selling sin products, such as alcohol and tobacco, along with entertainment media promoting films and music. National magazines such as Christopher Street, which ran from 1976 to 1995, and Blue Boy provided platforms for advertisers to reach gay audiences. Blue Boy, which had a circulation of 135,000, became notable as the first gay-oriented business to go public on Wall Street, FYI. Beer and spirits brands, including Miller Lite, Budweiser, Jägermeister and Coors Light were among the first to aim for gay male consumers through advertisements in specifically gay-targeted publications during the 1970s and 1980s. Absolute Vodka as well, obviously, as anyone who has ever seen a clip of Drag Race knows. Absolute Vodka makes it. Media scholar Joshua Gamson writes about this as the rise of what he calls the commodification of gay identity, where LGBTQ+ visibility becomes entwined with consumer markets. Although LGBTQ+ marketing initiatives have not been without controversy, both for and against them. Coors Brewing Company was the subject of a boycott by the LGBTQ+ community starting in 1973. The company's antagonistic hiring practices were called into question. They actually required prospective employees to take polygraph tests during which they would be asked about their sexual orientation. Coors ignored the boycott for several years, but in 1995, yes, that is 22 years later, began several countermeasures, including dropping the questions regarding homosexuality from employee intake interviews, and extending domestic partnership benefits to its LGBTQ+ employees. Still, that's some seriously shady behaviour. No, totally normal. I always ask for the sexual orientation of the models I work with. What? Oh, that's not... No. By the 1990s and early 2000s, brands began recognising that all queer audiences had purchasing power. This is often referred to as the emergence of the pink economy. The 1990s marked a period of increased mainstream corporate interest in LGBTQ+ advertising. Major corporations including Apple Computer, Philip Morris International, Benetton Group and Time Warner were actively pursuing gay consumers in LGBTQ+ magazines like Out and The Advocate. A significant milestone occurred in 1994 when IKEA aired what is considered the first mainstream US television advertisement featuring a gay male couple. The commercial, which showed two men shopping for dining room furniture, scandalous, only aired after 9:30 p.m. in select, very democratic locations, but still managed to generate enough controversy that there was a bomb threat at an IKEA store in retaliation. Well, if you're going to live with Scandinavian furniture, you're going to need to develop a more open mind too. In 1994, Subaru came to the shocking realization that lesbians were among its top consumer segments and began targeting us in a nice way. Some ads were very subtle, featuring taglines with double meanings such as "get out and stay out," or "it's not a choice, it's the way we're built." On the nose there. I love it. Billboards and print ads featured cars with license plates reading ZENA LVR. Xena lover. It's a Xena lover. I know. I mean, aren't we all? And they featured lesbian tennis player Martina Navratilova in adverts, so they really believed in us. The early 2000s then saw expanded participation from car companies, with Jaguar, Volkswagen and Volvo joining Subaru in advertising to LGBTQ+ communities through national gay publications, because we gays love our cars. Particularly the big yet electric 4x4 ones for the outdoorsy lesbians and the lesbians who like to believe they're still outdoorsy but now just have a lot of children and need to fit a double buggy and a dog. I'm looking at no one, not my wife at all. In August 2006, Time magazine carried a business article on growing interest amongst brand name advertisers in Europe on targeting LGBTQ+ customers. The article was literally called "Same-Sex Sells," and that's incredibly catchy. I like it. In 2013, the Human Rights Campaign began issuing the Corporate Equality Index, which provides a national benchmarking tool on corporate policies and practices related to LGBTQ+ employees in the United States. It is also used to determine a company's level of gay friendliness for customers. And this isn't just about how you're treated in a store. The index includes marketing and advertising to LGBTQ+ consumers as part of the corporate social responsibility section of its annual scoring system. And in 2025, 72% of companies rated met this. Yes, you recognise some gay people exist. It's the bare minimum. We're still pleased. Before 2020, numerous companies from a wide variety of types supported Pride globally, including Listerine, Tesco, Barclays, Amazon, M&S, Ralph Lauren, IKEA, Doc Martens, Adidas, Converse, Skittles, Virgin Atlantic, Levi's, Apple, Banana Republic, Starbucks and Disney. Hell, even Target began selling Pride-themed merchandise and creating in-store Pride displays starting in 2015 and contributing to the commercialisation of Pride Month. And, not all of their stuff was great. All of those rainbow logos during Pride Month, all of those same-sex couples in adverts, all of those Love is Love campaigns, they meant something. right? As scholar Sarah Bennett-Weiser discusses in her work, Authentic, the politics of ambivalence in a brand culture, identity, including feminism and queerness, have become a corporate branding strategy. And it's not necessarily insincere. Yes, those may be the values that the company holds close to their heart. Yes, that may be how the CEO actually identifies. Yes, as a company, there may be a high onus on social responsibility, but it's shaped by visibility, profitability, and image management, and they can stop at any time. Don't trust them. In 2020, it was profitable for companies to plaster Black Lives Matter across their social media. But in 2026, well, how many of them have got anything to say about ICE? They threw money into rainbow-themed campaigns for Pride Month, not all of which were admittedly good, but now it's a lot of wait and see. Even that non-threatening, apolitical messaging that only ever touched a toe into anything outside of the attractive, able-bodied gays who fit the gender-conforming aesthetics, what historian Lisa Duggan calls heteronormativity, even that's starting to quietly melt back away. But it's domestic and respectable, it's all families and couples. Isn't that consumer-friendly? It's just not selling the way it used to. Is anything? Well, no, but it's a kind of like, last in, first out sort of thing. Although the 2020s brought still more new appetizers to the LGBTQ+ space, it also brought more challenges. After creating a product in 2020 that resonated with transgender consumers, a credit card that allows customers to choose the name on it, Citigroup and MasterCard launched its True Name campaign. In the advert, a trans man shops at a convenience store without being judged or questioned because the name on his card matches his gender identity. In 2025, however, MasterCard failed to debut any Pride messaging and quietly withdrew as a top-level sponsor of New York City Pride. In 2021, the United States Army created an animated recruitment video featuring a soldier raised by two mums. Now, key officials call for the removal of LGBTQ+ service people, an end to the woke inclusion of women, and have stripped even the recognition of historical queers who served. It's Pete Hegseth, isn't it? Always. Oof, isn't that your own fault though? You're always banging on about pinkwashing and how companies didn't really back inclusive stuff, they just pretended to, and now they're just not pretending anymore, so what's the problem? The act of asking someone to improve doesn't make it your fault when they get worse. Depends how you ask. You can bring up the criticism about pinkwashing all you like, but let's not pretend that the odious things said by actual politicians and conservative groups doesn't sway corporations' behaviour as much as they might claim they believe in the free market. And vice versa, a report from Popular Information found that 25 major corporations, including CVS, AT&T, Walmart and Comcast, advertised to LGBTQ+ consumers while simultaneously donating over $10 million to politicians opposing LGBTQ+ rights. As is their right. Corporations are people too, you know. Okay, I'm not listening to you anymore. In Left of Queer, scholar Jasbir Kapoor discusses how queerness can be conditionally included through a mechanism termed homo-nationalism, a process where certain LGBTQ+ subjects are integrated into national belonging, rights, and consumer culture, but only by adhering to dominant heteronormative standards and colluding with state projects of imperialist and security agendas. But then, of course, they can be dropped at any moment. So then what? The market adjusts. Again, and this is where the pipeline starts to make more sense, because if queerness is rewarded when it's trendy, then branded when it's profitable, but then softened when it becomes controversial, we start to see why public figures might shift over time. Not necessarily because their identity isn't real, but because the conditions around them are constantly changing. And however they may live in their private lives inside their homes, they are, at the end of the day, a brand. Mainstream audiences are larger. Brands prefer safer identities. Oh, look, I'm sorry, kid, but the more universally palatable you are, the more monetizable you become. As Sarah Ahmed writes, societies orient themselves towards what feels familiar. Heterosexuality feels familiar. Traditional femininity feels familiar. Queerness, especially when it's so visual like that, is very disruptive. It can feel unsettling to dominant culture. Let's be honest, being visibly queer still comes with risk, whether that is of harassment, backlash, loss of opportunity, gaining some new creepy stalker. Softening your image isn't always about selling out. Sometimes it's about survival. Section 5. The algorithm and the reward system. Yeah, we also have to talk about the algorithm again. Because this isn't just happening in a vacuum. Platforms tend to reward couple content, domestic routines, clear identity labels, visually pleasing, non-threatening aesthetics. And often that means heterosexual pairings perform better.
I think we all know it's easier to box and sell husband and wife.
Traditional femininity performs better.
So many frilly dresses.
Relatable life stages perform better.
Babies. Talk about a moneymaker.
Not if you're the one paying for the baby things. It costs how much? She's only going to use it for 2 months. So if you're a public figure, especially one who built an audience young, the pressure isn't always that explicit. It can be structural, an inbuilt component of your workplace. You notice what performs well, you notice what gets brand deals, you notice what gets less hate. And slowly, sometimes without even meaning to, you adjust. I guess if it helps pay my rent. And just to be very clear, this is not me saying if you wear a vintage dress, the algorithm has personally radicalized you. I mean, I own many vintage dresses. This is about patterns, not pinafores. Section 6. Bringing it to the audience. Because this doesn't just affect celebrities, it trickles down. You know this. You will see which kind of posts get more likes, which photos feel safer to upload, which parts of yourself to soften. And if you see it, then so do the young teenagers who shouldn't be on social media and yet somehow are. Hello. And for queer and disabled people especially, that calculation can become constant because disabled people are also expected to perform palatability, often on a daily scale, to be non-threatening, inspiring, productive, acceptable. There's a long-standing pressure to minimize anything that makes others uncomfortable. And queerness with disability?
Oh honey, that's just too much.
So when public figures shift towards more normative presentations, disabled queer viewers may feel that pressure reflected back at them, even if it isn't explicitly stated. That's it. Be smaller, be simpler, just be easy to understand. I don't know. I just don't think I can market this.
But I don't want to be a brand.
Right.
Is it okay if I do change?
Of course.
Is it okay if I stay the same?
Always. Not every shift towards femininity is repression. Not every heterosexual relationship is performative. Not every aesthetic change is political. Unless you're a trad wife now. That is just a cry for help. And your friends need to step in. People are allowed to change, to experiment and contradict themselves. That's very human. The problem isn't individual choices. The problem is patterns of pressure. When our visible queers are slowly backstepping into a narrow version of acceptability, that tells us something structural is happening.
So there is a queer rebrand pipeline.
Not in a conspiratorial sense.
Well,
but in a cultural one, yes. This isn't just about identity. It's about what kind of identity the market knows how to sell. Because we live in a world that celebrates queerness right up until it becomes inconvenient. And then, gently, subtly, asks for something softer, something quieter, something more familiar. The question isn't whether individuals are authentic enough. The question is, why does the system reward certain versions of queerness and not others? And how do we build a culture where people don't have to shrink to be seen? Because queerness was never meant to be tidy, and that's what makes it powerful. So when we talk about eventually improving the world post-Trump, let's not ask to go back to how it was before. Let's aim for something where every version of queer joy exists. Thank you so much for watching the video, and hello to those new subscribers who have joined from the JoJo video. I hope you enjoyed this follow-up. If you're watching this video in real time, then I should let you know that the next 2 videos are going to be Malaysia-based and all about our trip, one of which will be talking about useful things for when you are flying with twin babies. Terrified at the prospect. No, I'm not. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be really fine. We've done long haul before with 1 baby. We'll see how we do with 2 and a child. And then the other one will be more of a vlog and talking about our time in Malaysia as we are visiting our family out there. So if you have any questions or anything that you'd like us to cover in those videos, let me know in the comments below. And thank you to Ritual for sponsoring today's video. Remember to click the link in the description or use the QR code on screen now to receive 25% off with your first order with my code JessicaKF25. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram at Jessica@thecloset, and I will see you back here very soon for my next video. Bye bye.